Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Saraswati Namastubhyam Parade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. The last darshana of the Astika Darshana is there are two types of darshanam, Astika, Nastika. Among the Astika Darshanani, the last one is Uttara Mimamsa, otherwise called Vedanta. Veda, we know, as a Pramanam, Swata Pramanam, a separate means of knowledge on which the Astika Darshanas have their basis. And this Veda can be looked upon as two Shastram, two parts. The first part is called Veda Purva, the last part is called Vedanta. So according to Uttara Mimamsa, this Veda consists of two parts, Purva Bhaga, Uttara Bhaga. Purva Bhaga, the first part of the Veda, consists of karma and upasana, rituals and meditations, various types of meditations. The last part of the Veda contains Jnanam, that is the knowledge, which is a means for moksha. So therefore it is called Jnana Kanda, otherwise called Vedanta. This is according to Uttara Mimamsa, otherwise called Vedanta Darshana. Whereas Mimamsa Darshana, otherwise called Purva Mimamsa, for them the whole Veda is looked upon as one Shastra. So for them the Tatparya of the Veda lies in performing karma rituals or varieties of karma phala. Results, the karma and the results of action. They believe in Swargaloka, etc. So therefore Swargaloka Prapti, that is the moksha for them. But Vedanta doesn't accept even that. Swarga also is a loka, it's a place where he can dwell for a certain period of time. It is also like this world. As it is here, so there also will be. So it negates even the Swargaloka Prapti as the moksha. Swargaloka is a place for experiencing one's karma phala. Whatever karma one has gathered in this loka, punya karma, that will be exhausted or that will be reaped in the Swargaloka. So therefore Swargaloka also is a place, is a place, the tourist spot. Like you go to Hawaii. Similarly, Swargaloka is also a place of tourism. That also samsara only. Swargaloka Prapti also samsara only. And what is moksha? Knowing one's own nature, Swarupa, that is moksha. Knowing here, one becomes free here itself. While living itself, one becomes free. That is called Jivan mukti. While living, the person is free. Even though lives in the world, but he is not touched by the world, by the samsara. That is the vision of Vedanta Darshana. With this background, we will read. Preamble, Sutras. We know for Uttara Mimamsa, Jaimini Sutra, Sutrani are the basis. Similarly, for Vedanta Darshana, Brahma-Sutra by the Guru of Jaimini, that is Vyasacharya, who wrote Brahma-Sutras. The Brahma-Sutras are the basis for Vedanta Darshanam. So therefore, in the introduction, he explains what a sutra is, which we know very well. Sutra Lakshanani, Shad Lakshanani, Sutra Lakshanani, Alpaksharam Asandigdam, etc. That is talked about here. We'll read that. The system of education in ancient India required the students to live in the campus of a forest academy along with the teachers. It says Gurukula Vasa. The students should live with the teacher in the Gurukula, and generally Gurukulam is located in the forest, Aranya. The teaching imparted was almost always in the form of sutras or aphorisms, followed by explanations and discussions. So the teaching material, the text was in the form of sutras, like Patanjali Yoga Sutra, Brahma Sutra, like that. Lot of sutra literatures are there. So these sutras one cannot study on one's own. One cannot understand on one's own. It requires explanation. It requires some background. It requires explanation. At a time when committing things to memory was considered supremely important, this method suited admirably. Committing to memory, the whole Veda was committed to memory because it was not available in printed form. So the Guru teaches, the Shishya listens, and he repeats verbatim. So that is how the Vedas were taught and received by the Shishyas. So therefore, the sutras also are memorized. Once it is memorized, once it is contesta, then later the meaning of the sutras, when the teacher explains, he can understand. After studying, after having sufficient background, later when he studies the meaning of the sutra, that time already he has committed the sutras to memory, so it will be easy for him. And also sutra, why it is in sutra form? Because it is easy to commit to memory. That is why it is in the sutra form. If it is in a prose form or if it is in a poetic form, it will be difficult to memorize. Even if it is a poetic form, it is easy compared to prose, like Gita, etc. Because it is in a poetic. That is why many of the literatures are in the form of the poems. Why? Because can commit to memory. And the sutras, all the more it is easy because it is a short, crispy statement. This sutra literature is a class by itself as per the norms set for a sutra. Norms is what are the features or characteristics that a sutra must have to deserve to be called a sutra. It should be alpakshara, we know that, asandigdha, saravat, vishvato mukam, astoba manavadyam, sutram sutravido vidugu. So consisting of minimum number of letters and without doubt, no ambiguity, and must contain the essence of the subject, vishvato mukha, multifaceted, reflect all aspects. However, in their anxiety to economize the words, the composers of the sutra work seems to have so overdone it that bhashyas or explanatory commentaries by later writers became necessary. Yes, without bhashya, without commentary, one cannot understand the sutra. So it is made so short, therefore it requires explanation. Otherwise, it cannot be understood. So, and there are Shrauta, Grigya, Dharma Sutras. The Shrauta, Grigya, and Dharma Sutras from the earliest bunch of sutra literature. The darshanas are the philosophical systems which are of a later period follow the sutra model since it served that purpose well. That is why Vaisheshika Sutra, Nyaya Sutra, in every darshana we have, and Patanjali Yoga Sutra, Uttara Mimamsa, Jaimini Sutras are there. And here it is Brahma-Sutra for Vedanta Darshana. Out of the 6 darshanas, or six systems of philosophy, which accept the authority of the Veda, Veda is a pramana. That's the authority of the Veda is also a valid pramana, valid means of knowledge. As a valid means of knowledge, Veda must be Anadigata, Abhadita, Arthavata, Jnana Janakam pramana. Should follow the conditions to be a pramana. Yes. Therefore, Veda is also a pramana. The last 2, that is Mimamsa, Uttara Mimamsa, Purva Mimamsa, and Vedanta, that is Uttara Mimamsa, systems are directly connected with them. Whereas a former tries to reconcile the various Vedic texts that seem to give different directions with regard to the same ritual system, the latter attempts to make out a coherent philosophy of Brahman or Brahma. Brahman is, in Sanskritam, it is Brahman Nakaranta Shabda. Nakarantaha Napum Sakalingaha Brahman Shabdaha. When you decline Brahma, Brahmani, Brahmani, it would be. So Brahman is not Brahmaji, okay, not Brahma, not the four-faced Lord, that the creator Lord, Brahma, Chaturmukha Brahma. That is not here. That is Brahma. That would be declined like. That is also Nakaranta only. That would be declined like Atman Shabda. Atma, Atmano, Atmanaha. Similarly, Brahma, Brahmano, Brahmanaha. That Brahma is personal God, creator, the four-faced Lord, Chaturmukha Brahma. Here, Brahman means Chaitanyam, consciousness, Shuddha Chaitanyam, consciousness. That is Brahman. So Brahman, they use in the English the Pratipadikam. Brahman. Brahman means Chaitanya. The total Chaitanyam, the absolute. So make out a coherent philosophy of Brahman from the apparently conflicting statements in the Upanishads. So the Purva Bhaga and Uttara Bhaga, the first part of the Veda, which talks about karma, and the second part of the Veda, which talks about jnana. So both the parts are different subject matter, different topics. But the Tatparya of the Veda is the Tatparya of the Vedanta. The Tatparya of the Veda is, the Purva Bhaga is the gaining of Dharma, Artha, Kama Purushartha. Gaining Dharma, Artha, Kama Purushartha, one cannot be really or truly happy. One cannot really be free. There are limited freedom. They can give you only limited freedom. Freedom, if it is limited, then it is as good as bondage only. If you want the freedom which is not limited, that is irrespective of the Desha Kala, want to be free forever, then you need knowledge. That is the last part of the Veda, which is called Vedanta. Talks about Vedanta, otherwise called Upanishads. The last part of the Veda is called Upanishads. Upanishads are present in the last part of the Veda. Vedas have got different branches. At the end of each branch, the last part, Upanishads would be there. You can note here, Veda can be classified into two different, can be divided in two ways. One is Veda Purva and Vedanta. There is one way of classification. Veda Purva, as I told, it consists of karma and upasana, and Vedanta consists of Upanishads. This is one way. Veda Purva, Veda Anta. Veda Anta is Vedanta. Vedanam Antaha Vedanta. Vedanam Purvaha Veda Purva. Another way of classifying the Veda is based on what it contains is Samhita, Brahmana, Aranyaka, and Upanishads. This is another way of classifying the Veda. Samhita is the mantra part. Brahmana is how to perform the ritual, Brahmana part. And Aranyaka is the meditations, Upasanas all in Aranyaka. And the other one is Upanishads. The Upanishads, they are at the end portion of the Veda. That is why they are called Veda Anta, Vedanta, end portion. It's a positional name. Vedanta is a positional name. And the first part of the Veda consists of this Samhita, that is mantras, Brahmanas. Brahmana is not the caste. Brahmana is the know-how of performing the rituals. And Aranyaka, that is meditations. So these three form the Veda Purva. So Veda can be classified into these two ways. Now Vedanta, how it connects the whole Shastram is, the first part of the Shastram helps you in gaining Dharma, Artha and Kama. The last part of the Veda completes that by giving you Moksha. That is how Vedanta Darshana presents the Tatparya of Veda Purva and Vedanta. Therefore, the goal is Moksha. That is a systematic transformation from Veda Purva to Vedanta. In Veda Purva, one has to do karma. Therefore, Brahmacharya Ashrama, Grihastha Ashrama, Vanaprastha, all these three ashramas, they follow Veda Purva. They have to follow Veda Purva. In Brahmacharya Ashrama and Grihastha Ashrama, a person has to study and do varieties of rituals. In Vanaprastha Ashrama, a person becomes relatively free from performing karma. He goes to the forest and performs tapas or meditations. The last part of the Veda, which is Vedanta, otherwise called Upanishads, there that is meant for sannyasis who give up everything, who gives up everything and takes to the particular the lifestyle, exclusive lifestyle of pursuing jnanam, that is the study of Upanishads, that is sannyasa ashrama. So three ashramas, Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, for them Veda Purva, and for sannyasa it's Vedanta. So it's all beautiful, beautiful scheme. Beautiful Vedic scheme. Now, this for Vedanta, where the fundamental text, Vedanta got fundamental text. These fundamental texts are called Prasthana Trayam. Prasthana Trayam. Traya means three. What are those three? One is Bhagavad Gita. Second one, Upanishads. These Upanishads are alone at the end of the Veda. Third one is Brahma-Sutra. These three together is called
Prasthanatraya.
Prasthanatrayam. Prakarshena stiyate. These form the basic or the fundamental literature or scriptures for Vedanta Darshan. Prasthanatraya. On which only all the acharyas, Shankaracharya, etc., all have written commentaries. Prasthanatraya. The word is important. Foundational pillars of Vedanta. These three, Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads. Upanishads are many. There are about 1,108 Upanishads, but many we don't have all the Upanishads, we have lost. But there are 108 Upanishads among them. And among them also, 10 Upanishads, Shankaracharya, Adi Shankaracharya had written commentary. Those are called major Upanishads, and that is what it is widely studied. Why? Because those Upanishads, the knowledge of those Upanishads are required for the study of Brahma-Sutra. So Brahma-Sutra, the Vedanta, the Tatparya of Vedanta is presented in the form of a sutra in Brahma-Sutra. So for studying Brahma-Sutra, you need to have knowledge of Gita as well as of the Upanishads. That is why Gita studied first, and then Upanishads, and finally Brahma-Sutra. So Brahma-Sutra provides the clarity with regard to the darshanam, with regard to the view of Vedanta. So it is the ultimate sutra. So that is the text. The fundamental text is the sutra text, which is Brahma-Sutra. It consists of 555 sutras, 555 written by Vyasacharya, on which Shankaracharya and other acharyas are written commentaries. There are many commentaries available, sub-commentaries. Sutra cannot be understood by oneself, therefore commentary is required. Shankaracharya written. On the commentary of Shankaracharya, another Acharya had written commentary. On that, another Acharya had written commentary. On that, another Acharya. It goes like that. Therefore, there are commentary, sub-commentary, sub-commentary like that available. So that's therefore wide literature available for Vedanta Darshana. A very popular Darshana. This is what I also studied in the Gurukula. So this is an important darshan. So now we will see. Prasthanatraya. The Vedanta system, as its very name implies, deals with the Upanishads, which are the end portion of the Veda. So why it is called Vedanta? It is a positional name because it is located at the end of the Veda. Therefore, it is called Vedanta and also contains the essence of the same. That is only a secondary meaning. But the first, why it is called Vedanta? Because it is located at the end. The system itself is based on 3 canonical works. Canonical works means Prasthanatrayam. The author translates it as canonical works. Upanishads, Brahma-Sutras, and the Bhagavad Gita. Upanishads are Shruti Prasthana. Why it is called Shruti Prasthana? Shruti meaning Veda. Upanishads are located in the Veda at the end, where it is located at the end of the Veda. Therefore, it is called Shruti Prasthana. Brahma-Sutras and Brahma-Sutra is called Nyaya Prasthana. Don't confuse this Nyaya with the Nyaya Darshana. That is different. Nyaya here it is logic or reasoning. Logic or reasoning. Logically it presents the Tatparyam of the Darshana. Logical, that's the logic or reasoning. That's the meaning here, Nyaya Prasthana. So Brahma Sutra is called Nyaya Prasthana. Bhagavad Gita is in Mahabharata. Mahabharata Smriti Grantha, written by Vyasacharya. Therefore, it is Smriti Prasthana. Nyaya Prasthana is the sutra provides the logical reasoning for establishing the existence of Brahma. That's Nyaya Prasthana. So 3 Prasthanas now. Prasthana Trayam, I told, Shruti Prasthana, Smriti Prasthana, and Nyaya Prasthana. These 3 together called Prasthana Trayam. Prasthana means schools of philosophy or religion. No, that is not the meaning. You can take that meaning, but in this context, Prasthana means that which is forms the basic or the foundational text. But the meaning is better. Okay. Prasthana Trayam. The Upanishads, though a very large number of works going by the name Upanishad are available in print today, Orthodox tradition accepts only a handful of them, 12 to 14 as ancient and authoritative. There are 108 Upanishads are there that we can accept. It is all, the names are all mentioned in the Muktika Upanishad, all the 108 Upanishads. Out of them, 10 Upanishads are very famous. Why it is famous? Because Shankaracharya had written commentary. The entire edifice of the Vedanta system of philosophy depends on these few Upanishads. The teaching of these Upanishads may broadly be speaking classified as Brahman, other is called Chaitanyam, Brahma Chaitanyam. I would call it as Brahma Chaitanyam. Okay, Brahma Chaitanyam as the ultimate cause of this world, the nature of Brahma Chaitanyam, evolution of this world and its character, nature of the living beings as individual souls, the relationship with Brahma Chaitanyam, their involvement in this world as well as the transmigration, the final goal of life, the disciplines that help in reaching that goal, and the nature of attainment of that final goal. Here what he says is the 6 points are beautifully presented by Vedanta Darshana. What is that? Jagat, Ishvara, Jiva, Bandha, Moksha, Sadhanani. 6 topics are very clearly presented by Vedanta Darshana. What is the Jagat has to be explained. How this Jagat has come to existence. What is a Karna? Who is a Karta? And who is Ishvara? And there are so many jivas. How this jiva has come? Are there many jivas? It's the pluralistic realities. Are the jivas real? Are the jivas separate from Ishvara? Then what is the concept of moksha? What is bandha has to be defined? Is jiva is bound or jiva is free? Jiva suffers samsara, therefore it is bound. Then how can it be free? What is the way to get moksha? That is sadhanani. All these things are beautifully presented in this. And Vedanta Darshana, another thing important to note here, this Vedanta also, there are Advaita Vedanta, Dvaita Vedanta, Vishishta Dvaita Vedanta, Veda, it is, there's so many Vedanta Darshana itself has got many varieties, many based on their perception of the differences. If there is no difference, non-difference, that is called Advaita. If the Darshana appreciates a difference, then it becomes Dvaita Darshana or Vishishta Dvaita Darshana. So we can classify this Vedanta also into Advaita Darshana and Dvaita Darshana. Anything other than Advaita Darshana or Advaita Darshana. Under Dvaita Darshana only, all these acharyas have come. I mean, they advocate this Dvaita Darshana like Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, etc. Raghavendra Swami, all these are where they advocate Dvaita Darshana, and they have written commentaries to the Brahma-Sutra. That is a fundamental text. And Adi Shankaracharya had written commentary on Brahma-Sutra, and their Siddhanta is, the conclusion is Advaita. So what we mean generally by the word Vedanta is Advaita Vedanta. But the word Vedanta covers other also, Vishishta Dvaita as well as Dvaita, other Dvaita darshanas also. Other Dvaita, the views also covered. They also come under this darshana only, Vedanta darshana only, but they are Dvaita darshana. So we can broadly classify Advaita darshana and Dvaita darshana. Among them also, Advaita darshana is very popular, and it is presents the truth very in a logical understanding way. Okay, cannot logically prove Bhagavan. See, all these are only logical support, not logical proof. Okay, now it's a fact that Upanishads as extant today, not really, not all the Upanishads have gone. Upanishads are there. Some of them have gone. Yes, as I told, 1,108 Upanishads were there, and the names are known by, because of it is quoted by some authors in some context. The names are known, but the text is not available. But major Upanishads, another few Upanishads are available. So do not give a coherent picture of these various subjects discussed in them. Since tradition and orthodoxy deem the entire body of the Upanishads as one canonical scripture, Shruti, it became necessary to reinterpret and reorganize the teaching as to give them a more coherent look. Important thing is here, the Upanishads, which are located at the end of the Veda, do not present the teaching in a systematic way. Therefore, we need a text which presents the teaching in a systematic way. This is what the acharyas and the tradition have done. Vyasacharya, realizing this, have presented the teaching in the form of sutras. It's called Brahma-Sutra, presenting the teaching in a systematic way. Similarly, the teaching is presented in the Prakarana Granthas, that is small treatises like Viveka Chudamani, Vedanta Sara, so many other small texts are that they are not sutra literature, but they present the teaching in a systematic way. Upanishads do not present the teaching in systematic way, that we have to note. Therefore, for the sake of understanding of the others, the great acharyas in the tradition presented the teaching in a systematic way, either in the form of a sutra literature, which Vyasacharya had done, he had written Brahma-Sutra, or Shankaracharya, like the other acharyas, have written Prakarana Grantha. Prakarana Grantha means it's a treatise on Vedanta, small text, not in the sutra form, it is in the shloka form or in the prose form they have written. So therefore, it was exactly that this Badarayana is another name for Vyasacharya, attempted, and the result was Brahma-Sutra. So he presented the teaching in a systematic way in the form of the sutras, in the form of 555 sutras. Brahma-Sutras. The work derives its name from the fact that it deals chiefly with Brahma Chaitanyam, Brahman, as described in the Upanishads in all its aspects. It is also known by other names, Vedanta Sutra, otherwise called Badarayana Sutra. There are many names for this, Sharirika Sutra. This is called Vedanta Sutra, since the subject matter is that of Vedanta or the Upanishads. That is why the Sutra, Brahma Sutra, otherwise called Vedanta Sutra. It is also called Sharirika Sutra, since the Atman, again here, Atman is Sanskrita word, Pratipadikam is Atman. When you decline Atma, Atmano, Atmanaha, it would be. So in English transliteration, they would say, they use the Pratipadikam, Atman. So Atma living in the Sharira or the body is dealt within the work. Sharirika Sutra. Sharire Bhavam Shariraka. What is there in the body? Atma. So Atma, therefore Sharirika Sutra. Another name is Uttara Mimamsa Sutra. As opposed to Purva Mimamsa Sutra, this Brahma Sutra is called Uttara Mimamsa. Uttara means later, Purva means before. Why it's called Uttara? Because it deals with the Upanishads, which are located at the end of the Veda. Veda Anta, therefore Uttara. Purva is Veda Purva, therefore it's called Purva Mimamsa Sutra, Jaimini Sutras. Uttara Mimamsa Sutra, since it does Mimamsa, the meaning of the word Mimamsa is inquiry. Pujya Vicharaha Mimamsa. Inquiry means you have to systematic investigation into the meaning of the sutra. That's called Mimamsa. Don't confuse with the Mimamsa Sutra. That is different. Mimamsa Sutra is the name. But what the word Mimamsa means, inquiry, systematic inquiry into the meaning of the sutras. Systematic inquiry into the understanding of the sutra. So, since it does Mimamsa or inquiry into the Uttara or the later part of the Veda. So, Mimamsa means inquiry, Vichara. Bhikshu Sutra has got another name, Bhikshu Sutra. Since it is specifically recommended for the study by the Bhikshu. Bhikshu means sannyasi. Sannyasis. That is why I said sannyasa ashrama. Those who have taken sannyasa ashrama, otherwise called sannyasis, they study Brahma Sutra. Then Badarayana, the author. Author is Badarayana, Vyasacharya. Nothing is known about Badarayana, the author of this celebrated work. Traditionalists identify them with Vyasa, the author of Mahabharata and the Puranas. The work is generally assigned to the period 500 BC to 200 BC by the Indian and some Western scholars. However, there are other scholars who consider the two to be different and assign Badarayana to the period 280. No, it cannot be 280. Impossible. All these were written long back. So therefore, we don't believe in this time period at all. Vyasacharya, because they all lived long thousands of years before. So it is there. So we don't accept what the Western scholars or Indian scholars are saying. Then about the work Brahma-Sutra. You need to understand the general structure of the Brahma-Sutras. Brahma-Sutra is in 4 adhyaya, 4 chapters. Like Panini Ashtadhyaya, 8 chapters are there. 8 chapters. Hello, what happened? Is it my side?
Ji, it's clear only, Ji. Your voice is clear, Ji.
Suddenly some sound came. Is it from my side or your side?
No, Ji. I think Uranika's mic got striked in the chair, Ji.
Okay. So sharp.
Ji, it's audible only, Ji.
Okay. So each adhyaya, that is each adhyaya meaning chapter, each adhyaya is divided into 4 padas and quarters. And the padas comprise adhikarana of the topics, each composed of sutras. So the division you can see here. Adhyaya, 4 adhyayas, and each adhyaya divided into 4 padas, and pada as adhikarana, the topics, different adhikarana. And within the adhikarana only the sutras are there. How many adhikaranas are there? The total number of adhikaranas on the sutras according to Shankara, and the earliest commentator is number of adhikarana is 191. So 191 topics. Within the adhikarana only sutras are there. How many sutras? 555 sutras. So 555 sutras are spread over these 4 chapters. Chapter divided into 4 pada into further adhikarana. However, variations are seen in this number as also in the readings themselves. Splitting one sutra into 2, fusing 2 sutra into 1, or adding the last word of the sutra to the beginning of the next are some of the reasons for which variations are there in the readings. Yes, this is possible. Sometimes you will see some sutras are split into 2. Even in Panini Sutras, it's like that. It's called Yoga Vibhaga. Yoga meaning sutra. Yoga doesn't mean neither yoga asana and all. Yoga Vibhaga we call. Means dividing the sutra into 2 and bring the other sutra down as anuvritti. All those things are possible. Splitting the one sutra into 2. Similarly, joining the 2 sutra into 1. These things are possible. Therefore, the number of sutras vary. But in general, it is 555. Such alterations in the structure of the sutras have contributed to divergent interpretations also. Not only that, divergent views have also arisen due to one school considering a particular sutra as stating the Purva Paksha, and another school accepting the same sutra as a Siddhanta propounded by the author of the work. Possible. Some sutras are considered to be the view of the Purva Paksha. Purva Paksha means opponent. And which is considered to be the sutra of the Siddhanta by some commentators. So like that, all the possibilities are there. So that is why the Brahma-Sutra being same, it is commented by Advaita Acharya, Shankaracharya, also by Vishishta Advaita Acharya and Dvaita Acharya. They also have commented on the same Brahma-Sutra. They have also commented on the same Brahma-Sutra and given different interpretations. Shankaracharya interpreted in Advaitic way, and they interpreted in Dvaitic way. For them, the truth is 2. For Advaita, it is not 2, non-dual. That's why it's called Advaita, negative, nunch. So all these things are possible. As already stated, each pada of the various adhyayas comprise several adhikaranas or topics, and adhikarana must have 5 parts connected in a graded manner. They are adhikarana must have 5 parts, very important. Vishaya, then Samshaya, then Purva Paksha, then Siddhanta and Sangati. So adhikarana must have these 5 components. One is Vishaya, the topic. Second one is raise doubt, Samshaya. Vishaya, then Vishaya, right? Samshaya it is. The third one is Purva Paksha, raising the objection. Then Siddhantin, what does it do? It dismisses the opponent's view. Purva Paksha Mata, it dismisses. And last one is connecting this to the next part, next section. Sangati. Sangati means connection. So each adhikarana has got these 5 parts. The number of sutras in any adhikarana depends on the nature of the subject under discussion. Yes. So not that all the each adhikarana will have the same number of sutras. That depends. Sometimes an adhikarana will have only 1 sutra. Thanks to the ambiguity in the sutta, the titles and the number of adhikaranas vary from commentator to commentator. Why Nimbarka? Nimbarka is another acharya. I think is Veda Darshana. Has a minimum number of adhikaranas. For him, number of adhikaranas is minimum, whereas Madhva has a maximum number of adhikaranas. So they divide for them adhikaranas are different based on their interpretations, they differ in the adhikaranas. They have different views. Therefore, therefore they have got different number of adhikaranas also. The purport of the sutra itself is determined by the commentators as per the principle of Shad Vidhalinga or 6 characteristic sign. The Shad Linga I told, which is important in understanding the Tatparya, in presenting the Tatparya, in ascertaining the Tatparya, Upakramopasamharaha, Abhyasa Purvatapalam, Arthabadopapatishcha, Lingam Tatparya Nirnaye. Slokam is the slokam is tells the 6 things are there, 6 linga, Shad Linga. Upakrama is introduction. Upasamhara is conclusion. Abhyasa is repetition. What is repetition means? What is a subject matter that is repeated through many ways. It's repeated. Apurvata is something. Apurvata must be there. Novelty. And Palam, finally objective. Then Arthavada, wherever Arthavada is a glorification statement. Then Upapati is logic. These things must be there. These things are, by these things, the Tatparya of the sutra is arrived at. Each sutra is presented, they are analyzed by this Shad Linga, 6 lingas. All these are methods. They are all that they are methods used by the acharyas, the tradition they are used to arrive at the Tatparyam, to ascertain the Tatparyam of the Shastra. True to its name, the work Brahma-Sutras deals primarily with Brahman as a highest truth, the only independent truth, by realizing which a person transcends transmigratory existence. Understanding Brahma, the person becomes free from samsara. Brahma, which is free, and that Brahma is myself. Aham Brahma Asmi. Brahma Asmi. The Mahavakya, it's called great equation. In fact, that is the Upadesha which sannyasi gets during sannyasa diksha. Understand, therefore, what is Brahma is understood, and that is myself. All this requires understanding. It's not as simple as this said. Study of Shastram, listening to the Shastram, all these things are required. And understanding has become so clear, it should be so real to you, then you become free. It's so real as you see an object with your eyes. So only that understanding has to be so thorough. So if you are that Brahma, then what about this body? This body is not real. So you should not have abhimana with the body. So when the body suffers, it is not that you suffers, because you cannot suffer, because you are Brahma Chaitanyam. How can consciousness be subject to suffering? How can consciousness be subject to or limited to this body mind? It is Sarvavyapi, it is Sarvagata, like Vayu, like Akasha, which is all pervading. Everything is Ishvara, Brahma alone. That is a vision. That knowledge alone makes a person free from samsara. The only one authority of the one and the only authority for the existence of Brahma as also for its true nature is the Shruti, Jnana Kanda, that's Upanishads. Section dealing with the knowledge of Brahma, Atma. Brahma is a word for the Chaitanyam, collective consciousness, total Chaitanyam. Atma is a word for the Chaitanyam which is obtained in the individual body. Between them, there are no difference. That is why we say Jiva and Ishvara, there is no difference. Ishvara is total. Ishvara is total. For him, the Jagat is a body. As we have the body, limited body, mind, senses, similarly, Ishvara, the total, has got the Jagat as his body. And Jiva, as Jiva, our real nature is Chaitanyam, consciousness, not limited by this body, mind, senses. This body is called Upadhi. In Vedanta, we say this is called Upadhi. Upadhi is not real. Similarly, Jagat is Upadhi for Ishvara. So, therefore, the truth of Jagat is Ishvara, the truth of this limited body is Atma, that is myself. That's why we say Aham Brahmasmi or Tatu Tvam Asi. Prajnanam Brahma, Aham Atma Asmi. That is knowledge. So, that is what the Jnana Kanda, part of the Veda, comprising Upanishads, deals with. This knowledge of Brahma can never be obtained by logic and reasoning, which depend upon the puny human intellect. You cannot establish or you cannot arrive at by logic, but you can give a logical support to only give a logical support. By logic, you cannot prove it. Bhagavan is there or not. You can give a logical support, but you cannot prove it logically. That's what he says here. If it can be proved by human intellect, God is there, Atma is there, then Shastram is not required. But Shastram will not be a pramana. What can be proved by intellect? Why do we need Shastra? That violates then it will violate the very definition of pramana. Anadhigata abadita. What can be known through the intellect, your buddhi? Why should we need Shastra? Therefore, we say it is not obtained by logic or reasoning. Why? Because since the intellect depends on the knowledge gained by the senses, and since Brahma, the pure consciousness that he is beyond the ken of the senses, beyond the scope of the senses. The Shruti, as revealed to the Rishis, is only the source for knowing him. Knowing him means knowing Ishvara, knowing that Brahma Chaitanya. There is no other Pramanam available other than this Shruti. You cannot know it by the intellect, by the buddhi, because what can be known through the intellect is only the Vishaya of the world. And they are gained through the senses, sense organs. Therefore, how can you know, how can you experience yourself? What is gained by senses or experienceable? That which is available for your experience only is gained through senses. Gained to the senses, gained to the mind. How can you be known or gained through the senses or the intellect? Not possible, because it is you who operate the senses, who operate the intellect. Therefore, how can the operator with the sensor can know himself? Not possible. Therefore, only Shruti. Shruti is a pramana. This takes us to the next point, the various Upanishadic statements that form the basis for the philosophy of Brahma-Sutra. It is more than philosophy, it is the truth. That's why the word philosophy, better word is darshanam. The Sanskrit word is better. Since some of these statements appear to contradict one another, Badarayana had to undertake the unenviable task of collating them to weave out an homogeneous philosophy. While doing it, he naturally chose the most ancient of the Upanishads. Which are those Upanishads? The statements of which Badarayana are discussed in the sutras. There is no indication in the sutras themselves, since they are too laconic. For this, we have to depend almost entirely on the Bhashyakaras or the commentators, who, fortunately for us, are more or less unanimous in deciphering the same. So, some of the statements of the Upanishad seems to contradict, not really contradict, seems to contradict. There is no real contradiction. If it is real contradiction, then you cannot reconcile the statements. Statements are contradicting means it is seemed to be contradicting, therefore reconciliation is possible. That is what Badarayana had nicely Vyasacharya done in the Brahma-Sutra. So for that he has chosen some of the, not all the Upanishads. Some of the statements of the Upanishads Badarayana had used. Even though he had not mentioned name of the Upanishads, but yet used as statements of the Upanishads. How do we know? Only from the commentary of the commentators. Only from the commentary of the commentators. We know that Badarayana has used here the statement of the Upanishads. There are many things like that. Anyway, that I don't want to get into that. Further, one has to study Brahma-Sutra. It is not easy. In fact, Brahma-Sutra is studied at the end. Finally, it is studied. After studying Upanishads, Gita, other Prakana Grantha, studied at the end. Anyway, so the statements of the Upanishads, some of the statements are used in the form of a sutra, and that can be known only from the commentators. The first 31 Adhikaranas, as per Shankara, the major statements, the Shankara, the address Shankaracharya, Shankara is not proper. Shankaracharya would be proper. Is not our next door neighbor, Shankaracharya. But in books and all, we will find Shankara, I think. Anyway, the first 31 Adhikaranas, the major statements that form the Vishaya or Vishaya Vakya, the subject matter, are from the following Upanishads, with the number of such sentences noted against them. So in the first 31 Adhikarana meaning topics. So according to Shankaracharya, the major statements that form the subject matter are from the following Upanishads. So 14, 5, 2, 3, 1, 2. So number you count 14, 5, 4. So 13 Adhikaranas. So 14 Adhikaranas are from the Chandogya Upanishad. The statements are from the Chandogya. And 5 statements from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. And 4 statements from the Katha Upanishad. And 2 statements from Taittiriya, 3 from Mundaka, 1 from Prashnaka, and Toshitaki Upanishad. All these are called major Upanishads because these statements of the Upanishads are used by Vyasacharya in this Sutra Pata, in Brahma Sutra. Therefore, the study of these Upanishads or the knowledge of these Upanishads is required to understand Brahma Sutras. And Shankaracharya mentioned the 31 Adhikaranas, the Badarayana, that is Vyasacharya, and used the statements of these Upanishads. Apart from this, the sentences taken from Shvetashvatara, Aitareya, and Jabala Upanishads have also been discussed. These are the other Upanishads. Shvetashvatara and Aitareya also important Upanishad. Jabala is another Upanishad. It's a minor Upanishad. What is major and minor? Major Upanishads means about those Upanishads are called major, for which Shankaracharya written commentary. And minor are those which do not have commentary. That's it. Jabala Upanishads. While analyzing the purport of the various passages from the Upanishads, Badarayana has quoted the opinions of other teachers also. He has done quoted the opinions. They are Atreya, Asmaratya, Audulomi, Karshnajani, Kashakrishna, Jaimini, and Badari. Almost all these names appear in the earlier works like Shota Sutra and Virya Sutras. It is likely that, like in Sutra Pada, we say, no, with Shakalya, the name uses, not only Shak, many names are Pani Maharishi uses. Similarly, Badarayana also uses the opinions of other teachers in the Sutra. Almost all these names appear in the earlier works like the Shota Sutra and Virya Sutra. It is likely that some preceded Badarayana and some others like Jaimini might have been his contemporaries. In fact, Jaimini is said to be the disciple of Badarayana. Though he differed from them, he has not criticized their views, probably because they were also Vedantists of repute, who accepted the Upanishads as a primary authority and Brahma as the highest truth. Then a brief synopsis. Now, this is about the Brahma Sutra. For this Darshana talks in this book. Brahma Sutras are explained little more. Not if you have seen any of the Darshana, it is not explained like this. Brahma Sutra, it is explained. A little elaborately, it is explained. Anyway, so therefore you also have to know what is the content of the chapters. The 4 chapters are there. What is the content? You have to know. The content of the work may now be summarized as follows. The first chapter, comprising 134 sutras in 39 adhikaranas, all the numbers are, you have to note it. has been called Samanvayadhyaya. Samanvaya means harmonizing. Tattu Samanvayat Sutra is so it's called Samanvayadhyaya. Since it attempts to harmonize the principles dealt with in various Upanishads. Now, so many Upanishads are there. These Upanishads talk about different things. No, all the Upanishads have got the same, have the commitment to revealing the same Brahma only. So, not that many Upanishads are there, therefore many truths or each Upanishad reveals one thing. It's not like that. Every Upanishad is committed to reveal Brahma only. So therefore, Samanvaya is there. Samanvaya is there among all the Upanishads, and that is Samanvaya Dhyaya. Vyasacharya presents in this chapter Samanvaya Dhyaya in 39 Adhikaranas or 134 sutras to present this harmonious harmony of the teaching of the Upanishads. Then the work starts the famous sutra, Athato Brahma Jigyasa, that is the first sutra of the Brahma-Sutra. Atha Yoga Anushasanam, as we are in Yoga Sutra, Patanjali Yoga Sutra, similarly here, Athato Brahma Jigyasa. Sutra looks simple. If you see the commentary, what Shankaracharya had written, it runs for pages. So first he will say, then he will, first is Upakrama, introduction. Then he will say that what is Upakrama that the Shadlinga is that all the Shadlinga he will apply and interpret the sutra. First he will say what the sutra says. Then a Purvapakshi may raise question. Then Siddhantis will answer. And if there any Arthavadas are that also he will present. And he will try to logically prove what the sutra wants to say. Upapatti, logic. And finally, Upasamhara concludes what the sutra says, conclusion. Like all these are beautiful. So like in the TV news, how the TV news, they read the news of the TV. First, they give the news headlines. Then same headlines is elaborated. Then finally, it is concluded. In the TV news, there is no Purvapakshi, all those things are not that discussion. But introduction, elaboration, conclusion. Similarly, also Sutra also. First introduce what the Sutra says, introduction. Then finally conclusion is there. In between, then the author himself will raise a question and he himself create a doubt. Then he himself will raise a question, he himself will answer and try to answer that in a very logical way. Logically, he will prove what the Sutra wants to tell me, that he logically will prove. That is why the Shadlingas are important. Upakramo that Shadlinga is that Upakramo Pasamharaha. What is that Shadlinga? The shloka I told just now. The 6 lingas. Shadlingas are important. Shadlingas. Abhyaso Purvata Palam. Arthavado Papattischa. Palam Tatparya Dirnaye. So the Shadlingas are applied for the sutra, and finally the meaning of the sutra is arrived at. Because sutra yields itself to many interpretations, therefore they apply the Shadlinga. The technique of applying this, the technique of the Shadlinga they apply, and they arrive at the meaning of the sutra. So Atato Brahma Jigyasa, that is the first sutra, very famous sutra. Meaning is now, therefore, the desire to know Brahman. That's what it means. There is no Kriya Bodham, nothing. Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Jigyasa is Jnatamicha Jigyasa. Now starts a desire to know Brahma. What does it mean? That's why the author is required. The commentary is required. Commentator explains the sutra. So first sutra is Atato Brahma Jigyasa. In Gurukula Mandal, all the 550 sutras are not taught. Only 4 sutras. 4 sutra itself, it's a big commentary. That itself will take some 3 to 4 minutes to study the commentary. That's all. That's called Chatussutri. If you know the 4 sutras, it is enough. For Atma Jnanam, 4 sutras are enough. You don't have to study all the 555 sutras. You can study, but in the Gurukula Mandal, even I have studied only 4 sutras. It's called Chatussutri. Other sutras that you can study on in your leisure, on your personal time. But as a content of the course, only 4 sutras are taught because the 4 sutras are enough, or they convey the essence of the teaching of Vedanta. So that is enough for a sadhaka, for a moksha, for a jigyasa. That's the idea. That itself, the commentary itself, the form of a book that will run for months if you study. That's the beauty of the sutra and the bhashyam on that. Now, here, atata brahma jigyasa. Since the knowledge or experience of Brahma leads to moksha and freedom from transmigration, samsara, it is very necessary to have a correct understanding of Brahma. So, what is Brahma to be understood correctly, clearly? Keeping this in view, the treatise deals with the various statements of the well-known Upanishads concerning Brahma. Brahma is he from whom this world came into existence, in whom it inheres, and to whom it returns at the end of the cycle of creation. The only source for the knowledge of this Brahma is Shruti or the Upanishads. From where this Jagat has come, it has come from Brahma. Where it is sustained in Brahma. And to where it goes, finally into Brahma. Like what? Like, I give an example, you'll understand. Just a simple example to understand what it means only, not elaborately. You cannot know everything. It means we should have a Vedanta class. That is not possible. A pot is created. A pot is created from the clay. So the pot is the created one. A pot which is created from the clay. Right? Now, what is pot? Pot is nothing but clay alone. The clay alone has become a pot. And what is the difference between the clay and pot? Why should we have different name? Yes, a pot is nothing but a name and a form given to a clay. Clay has assumed a form, and to the form you give the name pot. So the pot which is created as the Karanam, clay. So clay is like Brahma. So from Brahma only this Jagat has come, the pot has come. Now, minus clay, can the pot survive? If you remove, you keep the pot, give me the clay. It means what? What will you have? You will not have anything because pot minus clay, the pot doesn't stand alone because it's just a name and form. Goes away. Therefore, pot is nothing but clay. Therefore, pot survives means it is nothing but clay alone. It is. Pot has its existence in clay. So the Jagat has existence in Brahma alone. And when you destroy the pot, what happens to that? Only the name and form get destroyed. The clay never gets destroyed. So it comes back to clay. Destroyed pot goes back to clay. Similarly, at the end of the cycle, if the Jagat is destroyed, it goes back to Brahma. In fact, it is not coming and going. All the way it is only clay, as in the example, Drishtanta. Similarly, in the Darshtanta, all the way it is there. What is there is only Brahma. Brahma doesn't undergo any change. Without undergoing any change, it appears as a Jagat. It gives existence to this Jagat, and this Jagat resolves back into Brahma. So it is Brahma alone. It is all the way without undergoing any change. That Brahma is you. It means you are the cause for this Jagat. Jagat Karanam Brahma Tatu Tvam Asi. This is the Jnanam. And for this, what is a source? Shruti alone, Upanishads alone. Understand what I'm saying?
Amji.
This is not as easy as we think, understanding. For this only, we study Upanishads, we study all the Granthas. But what the Granthas, what the Shastram says, only this. Tatparyam is only this. Jagat Karanam Brahma Tatu Tvam Asi. All these things you don't require for the exam. Anyway, this all for your understanding, for you. What is this Vedanta says, some knowledge, at least you will get. Later, if you are interested, you will pursue into it. That's why I'm saying. Anyway, so now it is Brahma alone who is the ultimate cause of this world. That's what I told. Not Prakriti or Pradhana as Sankhya's our, since it is insentient. According to Vedanta, there is nothing called insentient. Please note that. A rock is not insentient. The rock is also Not insentient means it is jada. Yes, rock is jada, but it's also consciousness. The consciousness doesn't manifest in that. It is not like in that of Sankhya. For Sankhya, it is jada is a separate principle. Chaitanya is a separate principle. Whereas for Vedanta, there is no jada and there is no Chaitanya. Everything is Chaitanya only. Even the rock is also Chaitanya. You may say, call it as insentient jada because it doesn't manifest consciousness. Doesn't manifest consciousness. Therefore, you can say jada. If that is the case, your mind is also jadam only. Your mind also insentient only. Your mind is reflects consciousness. Therefore, therefore only whatever the thoughts pass through the mind, it is illumined by consciousness. Therefore, you are aware of it. So, mind is also jadam only. Mind is also jadam only. If the rock is jadam, the mind is also jadam. And the rock doesn't manifest consciousness, therefore we say jadam. Mind manifests consciousness, therefore we think mind is sentient. Mind is also jadam only, doesn't manifest. It manifests consciousness. It's a very, very subtle medium which can manifest. Mind has got that power as the potency to manifest Chaitanya, whereas rock doesn't have. Like mirror as the power or the potency to reflect light, whereas the rock doesn't have that power to reflect light. Even among the Jada Vastu, there are differences. Then what to talk about the differences between the mind and the rock? If you say it is Jadam, according to Vedanta, Jadam, what is Jadam is, there is no really called Jadam. Achetana is also is not there. Achetana we call because it doesn't manifest consciousness. Doesn't manifest consciousness, but it is consciousness. Therefore, what is there is only consciousness. Chaitanya, Brahma alone is. That is why it is Advaitam. There are no two. There are no Prakriti and Purusha like in Sankhya. That is why Sankhya is dismissed. We don't accept Prakriti and Purusha as two separate realities. There are not two realities. There is Brahma alone. That is why we say Advaitam, not Dvaitam. We are negating the Dvaitam. Dvaitam is our Dvaitam is our Dvaitam is in the Vyavahara, we all experience Dvaitam. Dvaitam is our reality, our experience. That experience is not being negated by the vision of the Vedanta Darshanam. Therefore, only it says Advaitam. It doesn't say Ekam. Our experience based conclusions are negated. Therefore it is called Advaitam, negative. Anyway, the point here is we don't accept Prakriti or Pradhana exists apart from Brahma. Prakriti Pradhana exists, if you say, that is also nothing but the manifestation of Brahma alone. It is also Brahma alone. It is not something separate from Brahma. Okay. Yes, insentient cause can never think or will or produce such a perfectly designed universe. Why do we say if Prakriti also is a cause for the creation, if Prakriti cannot create such a universe? There is an order in the universe. That's a beautiful order. There is everything functions within the order, obeys the order. If there is a disharmony in the creation, it gets automatically adjusted. Therefore, there seems to be some power, intelligence functioning behind the universe. Therefore, how can Jada have this intelligence? If it is Jada, it cannot have this intelligence. Therefore, Brahma alone is the ultimate cause. This Brahma is Anandamaya, full of Ananda, is transcendent as well as immanent. Transcendent means it is Nirgunam as well as Sagunam. It is Brahma alone in the form of this Jagat is there. And Jagat including Jivatmas, otherwise called individual souls, Jivatma. The being of light that exists in Aditya or the sun and in your own eyes is called Brahma. The Chaitanyam which is in Aditya, the Surya, the Chaitanyam which is in our eyes. Because of Chaitanyam only the eyes are eyes. Eyes are able to see. Minus Chaitanyam, the eyes cannot do the function of seeing. It cannot exist. Therefore, that is Brahma. He is also designated as Akasha, Prana, Bhuma, Akshara. The Brahma is called by many names in many Upanishads. It is called sometimes by Bhuma, by Prana, by Akasha, by Akshara, all these names. This being, the being described as Angushtamatra Purushaha. In Kathopanishad it says Angushtamatra Purushaha. It is of the size of the thumb of the person. It is or the, not literally the size of the thumb. Okay, don't think it is. It's got some dimensions. That is this Angushtamatra Purusha. The Purusha, the person of the size of the thumb is also really Brahma, not the Jiva or the individual soul. It means this Brahma, which is in the Hridaya Guha, in the heart of the Jiva, and that is of the size of the thumb. It means to show that Brahma, which is Upalabdhi, which is obtained in the heart, which is of the size of the thumb, which is small, doesn't mean it is small. In the heart, it is Upalabdhisthana. It is, even though it is obtained everywhere, but it is manifest or it is available for recognition in the Hridaya Guha, in the Hridi of the Jivas. So Hridi means it's a place. Therefore, the place this Atma is, that means it has to be to the size of the Hridaya. Therefore, Angushtamatra Purushaha. It doesn't mean that Chaitanyam is limited. Chaitanyam is like Akasha. How can be limited? It is just like this. Sun is there. Sun reflects light everywhere, all over it. Light it reflects everywhere, all the directions. Right? But the light comes from where? From one place, that is sun alone. But the reflection is all over. Similarly, the Purusha is Angushtamatra, which is located in the Hridaya, and its reflection is everywhere. That is the idea. Okay. That much is enough. So also does the Atma refer to him. Badarayana quotes the opinions of Ashmaratya, Audalomi, and Kashakrita in the fourth para of this chapter. Then Ashmaratya thinks that the Jivatmas are both different and non-different from Brahma. Brahma is Paramatma. Even as the sparks of fire are both identical with and different from fire. So this was Acharya Ashmaratya thinks the Jivatmas are different at the same time non-different from Brahma. Different, how can you say, like the sparks of fire? The fire is there from which the sparks have come. In terms of fire, both are fire only. Sparks also nothing but fire, the huge fire conflagration, that is also fire only, both are fire. At the same time, it is different. The spark is separated from the fire, therefore it is different. Therefore, both different and non-different. Different in terms of the size, in terms of upadhi, and different in terms of upadhi, different in terms of the size, different in terms of size or in the quantity of illumination. The example I'm talking about sparks, and non-different in terms of the fire. Fire is there in the spark, and fire is there in the huge fire also. From the huge fire only sparks come. So therefore, Jivatma, like that, has come from Paramatma. When we say they are different, at the same time non-different. This is according to Ashmaratya. And Audalomi opines that Jivas are different from Brahma in the state of bondage, but become one with him in the state of Moksha, liberation. And Kashakrishna, however, considers the two to be identical, since it is Brahma that has become the Jiva also. So it is Brahma alone has become the Jiva. Therefore, there is no difference, the complete non-difference. Though the views of these teachers are stated, Badarayana doesn't give his own opinion or preference. The last part of this chapter asserts that Brahma is both the Upadana Karana and the Nimitta Karana. Upadana Karana means material cause. Nimitta Karana is the efficient cause. The maker and the material. Upadana means material. Nimitta Karana means maker. For creating a pot, you need the material. What are the materials? You need clay, you need a wheel, you need a rod for rotating the wheel. All these are material causes. And who is the Nimitta Karana? The pot maker. To make the gata pot, the material is clay. For the pot is the product. To make the pot, you need the material. The materials are the clay, the wheel, the stick, etc. And the maker should be there. Pot maker must be there. If pot maker is not there, how can you make the pot with the available material? Or the pot maker is there, material is not there, then also you cannot make the pot. So every product must have two karanam. Upadana karanam, that is a material, and the maker has to be there. The maker works on the material and produces the product, right? Every product must have two karanams, two causes. The causes are called material and maker. Upadana karanam, nimitta karanam. Sanskrit words important. You need to know this. Similarly, the Jagat also must have two karanam. Jagat also must have two karanam. This for this creating the Jagat, material must be there, and there must be the maker. If the maker is Brahma, because maker is Brahma. Brahma is the maker, Ishvara is the maker. And where was the material? If material was existing separately from Brahma, then it is Dvaitam. It is Prakriti and Purusha. Brahma is there and material is there. That is what Sankhya also say, Prakriti and Purusha. We say Advaita. Advaita means non-duality. Then the material and the maker also should not be separate. They should be the one and the same. The maker and the material are not different. They should be one and the same. The maker is a material. The material is a maker, out of which only this Jagat, the product, has come. Now this question comes, how can the material be the maker also? How can the maker be the material? Why not? Have you seen how the spider spins the web?
Amji.
The web is the product, like a Jagat or like a pot. Who is the maker of the web?
Spider.
He is a nimitta karana, right? He is a
Amji.
maker, efficient cause. And for making the web, you need that material. Who has supplied the material to the spider? It itself produces material. So the material is also from itself only, not different from itself, right?
Amji.
Spider produces a material, and it from the material it makes the web. Therefore, there are possible. Therefore, you cannot say the material and maker should always be different for creating a product. You cannot say. It can be same also, as in the case of spider. Etornanabihi sujate grinnate cha. Mundaka Upanishad gives this example. Urnanabi, spider example.
Astuji.
So therefore, Brahma is the Karanam, ultimate Karanam for the Jagat as a Nimitta Karanam as well as the Upadana Karanam. This is what the first chapter deals with. Second chapter we will see in the next class.
Astuji.
We are free today by 3:30. You can see. Yes, 3:30. We have to complete this. Okay, this we have to complete as early as possible.
This still only this second chapter is there, Aji.
No, second chapter is there, third chapter is there, fourth chapter is there. Then after that, the different views, this Vedanta is there. Vedanta means not only Advaita Vedanta. I just explained from the viewpoint of Advaita Vedanta. Then the other views are the Ramanuja and Vishishta Advaita, and that also are there. So this is a bigger topic.
Astuji.
Ramanuja, Nimbarka, Baladeva, Vallabha, so many other acharyas are there. They also are given that. So it has got another 20 pages are there. So we need to complete. If we do spend time on this, Sanskritam becomes difficult.
Amji.
We have to complete this anyway. So if we have class another 1 hour, then only we will be able to complete.
Astuji.
For the exam purpose, this what is the internal assessment, second exam, that is over. For the main exam, we have to complete all these topics. So tell me, we have class at evening? 3:30.
Astuji.
Yes.
Amji.
How many of you will attend?
Ji, I shall attend, Ji.
Okay, so 3:30 we'll meet.
Astu ji. Ji, for second assignment, what we should do, ji?
Yeah, already I told you, no, this for second with good question. Good question means already I told you. Write a note on the darshana what we have covered. Other than this,
Astu ji.
this first one is Nyaya Darshana, Vaisheshika Darshana and Darshana, right? Right
Ham
on.
ji.
That is Vaisheshika Darshana, Sankhya, Yoga, and Purvamimamsa.
Purva Mimamsa. Astu ji.
On these darshanas, don't write all the story. Write in simple way what your understanding is. What are the basic text? Who is the author, proponent of the text?
Astu
And
ji.
what is it, the view on Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara, and the 6 topics? And what are the pramanas they accept? Like that, you write assignment and write a note on Karakam. That already I told for the
Ham ji.
Karaka topics.
Ji, can we write as points, ji?
Yeah, please do it. It's okay.
Astu ji.
So that is done. Okay.
Astu ji.
Yes. So we stop here. Om Purnamadah Purnamidham Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.
Dhanyawadaha, ji.
Dhanyawada.